College Football Tailgate Week 9 preview show. I am Dan Watkins, joined as always by John McKechnie. John, looking at this Saturday, last Saturday in October, I mean, it really has that feeling of some teams with their backs against the wall. Some seasons might come to an early end here. A lot to play for, as always, every single Saturday in college football. But this weekend really has that kind of like almost elimination type feel with some of these schools that are in action this week.
Yeah, right on the chopping block, especially in the SEC. I think you have a bunch of teams that are, like that Ole Miss Oklahoma game, I think it is right in there. I think the Mizzou Vandy game, to an extent, it kind of has that similar level of juice. I think we're going to learn a lot about BYU this weekend. I got another team I'm keeping an eye on in the Big 12 too that we'll get to as well. But this weekend a lot of teams are on bye, of course, but at the same time, like, there's a nice concentration. Like, there's a lot of quality matchups we got going on here.
And then, of course, we got A&M, LSU, Saturday night, Baton Rouge. That's going to be a fun one. Like, that Brian Kelly hot seat talk is, like, cranked up this week, it feels like here. LSU very banged up. We're going to break that game down in full. We got some other thoughts I want to get to about Tiger Stadium after an article came out from The Athletic this week that we got to talk about. But first, I do want to say, if you're watching, thank you very much. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel at College Football Tailgate on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts as well. We're on all three platforms. Just hit that subscribe button or the follow button. It doesn't cost you anything. Just helps John and I out as we continue to try to build this thing. You can follow us on Twitter at CFB Tailgate 25. And of course, go to our just fantastic TikTok page where the comments are just always very lively, especially on Saturday afternoons. At CFB Tailgate is where you can find us on there. So, John, I threw something into our rundown on the last second because it's just an itch that I have to scratch that has just kind of started percolating this week once again because, well, as we talked about on Monday, Billy Napier is no longer the head coach at Florida. So Florida is another job opening for this current coaching carousel cycle, whatever you want to call it. And something that's starting to bug me, and you can just full on tell me if I'm just being a sensitive fan right now, because I'm kind of like feeling like I am. But why is it when these, I'm going to call them lesser jobs, open up, compared to Notre Dame, does Marcus Freeman's name like always instantly pop up? That he like, go get Marcus Freeman. Like, I think Brian Kelly leaving like made people view the Notre Dame job a little differently. Notre Dame is not a job that that's a stepping stone, that you go for a couple of years and you peace out. Brian Kelly was there for 15 years and had run his course. And yes, he took a bag from LSU to go leave. Where Marcus Freeman's in his fourth year, he is constantly recruiting the way he has top 10 classes every single year. He has 2 top 5 classes coming up currently in the next 2 cycles. Just went to the national championship game. Just signed a contract extension. And Notre Dame is once again like in this mode where it's like, okay, just win what you got in front of you and you're going to be in the playoff again. Like, in my mind, there's maybe 3 to 4 jobs that might actually be a better job than Notre Dame. Alabama, Georgia, and like Ohio State. And if you want to throw LSU in there, fine. But like, that's really it to me. Notre Dame is a top 5 job in the country. But please tell me if I'm just being a sensitive fan because I just don't like seeing the rumors that Marcus Freeman might leave. And he rightfully just immediately, like, it sounds like he just hung up the phone on Florida when they called him. So please tell me if I'm just being sensitive.
I don't think so. I'm always confused by it because the question that I posed myself when I saw that same report about it being a pretty quick conversation with the brass in Gainesville is like,
just nope.
Good, thanks. How many other coaches do you think are like kind of just are where they're supposed to be? Like, I feel like Freeman is one of them. I think Kirby Smart, like, I don't think that he'd leave Georgia.
Ryan Day.
Day's probably just going to be at Ohio State and, for the foreseeable future. Like, those 3 guys, like, why would you bother calling them? Like, I just don't really see an instance, like, things would have to go sideways off the field. There'd have to be like a drying up of money, which of course is not what we're seeing with any of those 3 programs. So really, Freeman to me, he's one of the more like rock solid coach to program type of connections right now. And I don't understand why he would listen to Florida, which has been kind of a mess in the NIL era. and you'd have to do kind of like a full roster rebuild on the fly, everything like that. Like he's got it cooking. He's done so well to get the Notre Dame program on track the way that he envisioned. Why would he leave? I just don't understand that. So I think the only like kind of devil's advocate I would play is that if you are a program like Florida, it makes sense to at least call. Like if you hold yourself in a certain esteem to just be like, hey, we're going to make a big swing. But I think Florida probably had to know in their heart of hearts that was also going to be a quick conversation. Maybe it's a longer conversation with Lane Kiffin. We'll see. I kind of think that's a lateral move. That's maybe a show or a conversation for another show. But ultimately, it is confusing how Freeman seems to every single year get his name bandied about in the coaching cycle.
Yeah, I think it comes down to, one, you just make the phone call just because you got to make the call and see. And then two, even after his contract extension last year, I think he's like barely in the top 20 of the highest paid coaches. So I just looked it up quickly. I think he's making like 7.4. There's a lot of coaches that are ahead of him on that list. And if Notre Dame, I think, goes on another deep playoff run, if they were to this year or even next year, like they're going to have to give him a new extension again too, because like that's not gonna stick. But money's not an issue for Notre Dame. They have one of the biggest alumni bases and all that kind of stuff, and bringing so much money with their TV deal and all that kind of stuff that money's never going to be an issue for the Irish. And now that he's recruiting the way that he is. Like I said, I think there's only 3 jobs in the country that are better, and I don't see any of those 3 jobs coming open anytime soon. When Kirby Smart, Kalen DeBoer's got things that seems like back on track at Alabama after some little bit of a roller coaster there, and then Ryan Day's not going anywhere at Ohio State.
Yeah, like I think if anything, for Notre Dame, like you're making sure that you're going to be able to pay that next pay bump for Freeman, but I feel like also dudes especially. You go to Notre Dame with the hope that one day you can give back to the program, especially in this era. It's like I feel like it's a very, very dedicated donor base for sure as far as the Irish go. So Marcus Freeman will certainly be made whole, and no complaints from him, I wouldn't think.
Yeah, so thank you very much for indulging me on that. That's the extent of our Notre Dame talk for this week. They are on the bye here on week 9. So The Athletic, John, comes out with this list this week of the top 25 best college football stadiums across the country. I immediately think of you when I see this list and they tweet out their top 10 because, well, Georgia is not in the top 10 here. I will quickly go over it. Tiger Stadium comes in as a pretty much unanimous number 1. Then Beaver Stadium for Penn State, followed by Notre Dame, Ohio State, and Michigan to round out the top 5. You got Neyland down there in Knoxville, Husky Stadium out in Seattle, which I think is a sneaky great stadium, by the way. Love that they made the top 10. Kyle Field at College Station, the Rose Bowl for UCLA games, and then Autzen at number 10. I'll hand it off to you in a minute, but my first thought, I don't have any issue with the top 5. I don't really have an issue until we get to the Rose Bowl for UCLA games at number 9. There's zero, but like UCLA students don't even want to go. Like, no. I understand it's the Rose Bowl and you got the San Gabriel Mountains behind you and all that. And it's this incredible game on New Year's Day where the rest of the season in Pasadena, I mean, yeah, the views are immaculate, but like the vibes are so bad. There was 100 people in the stands when they beat Penn State a couple weeks ago. So like UCLA, like I feel like that's just people just like, well, we got to put the Rose Bowl on there just to put the Rose Bowl on there.
Yeah, the money behind the Rose Bowl, the Rose Bowl, the brass definitely was like, hey, listen, you can't have a top 10 without us. But Rose Bowl is a top 10 venue. I think that it's number 1 on New Year's Day, of course. Like I don't think anyone's fighting you on that, but regular season game day experience, like it absolutely not. Like that's just not there. I can attest to Tiger Stadium being unbelievable. It's massive. That's the biggest stadium I've ever been to, the loudest stadium I've ever been to. When Georgia was playing there in 2018, LSU scored this like key touchdown to kind of like put them back up 2 scores. They were playing the riff for Money for Nothing as they were getting ready to kick it back to Georgia. Devin White had the people going nuts, and for the first and only time in my life, I couldn't even hear my own thoughts. Like it was that loud. So Tiger Stadium easily number 1. Having been to Notre Dame, very, very nice stadium. They definitely have gotten like a facelift over the last decade
Yeah, we got
or
turf
so.
now there, but the aesthetic is what I love about Notre Dame. I was actually explaining this to my girlfriend last Saturday night again during the USC game. How Notre Dame doesn't have any advertising in the stadium,
Right.
and like it's just a really cool throwback look that I love about it. One of the many things.
My buddy, when we went there, he's a big Notre Dame guy, and he was sort of be an old man yelling at the clouds about. He's like, yeah, I don't like that there's a video board. Like he just like the old like black and gold like animations on like the old school style
Right.
scoreboard type of thing. But
Techno Bowl kind of
yeah, but
stuff.
Notre Dame's awesome. This summer I was on a boat close to Seattle or in
Okay.
Seattle, so I saw Husky Stadium in all of its glory from the sailgating perspective. That is an awesome place. I
That's
think
on my bucket list.
you could argue BYU as far as like venues are concerned and views. Colorado, same deal, but game day experience. From what I've heard, Autzen is just bananas. So I would probably creep that into the top 5 over like a Michigan, and then I honestly have no quibbles with Georgia and Alabama not being on there. Like
Interesting. Okay.
Georgia's a little bit wine and cheesy. I feel like if you pay attention to Georgia enough, you pick up on the fact that Kirby is like kind of constantly being like, fans, please, I need you to be loud. Like they can be a little.
So is that a recent thing? Has the 2 championships like skewed that perception kind of?
It does feel like the fans will and the students will like only show up for the big games and like, you know, so for like Kentucky a couple of weeks ago or some other time this year where they're big favorites at home, like it's going to be a late arriving and early exiting type of crowd there. I think my understanding is that Alabama very similar as far as their game day experience goes. Like big game, it's great, but the consistent week to week showing out, being energetic is not necessarily there. And I'll throw one more anecdote in there. When South Carolina's good, Williams-Brice is hell for the opponents. Williams-Brice is crazy.
Yeah, they're one of the ones that I was surprised was not up higher on that list. BYU, I think, came in around 20. Another one that got like an honorable mention there at the end at like number 25 was Lane Stadium for Virginia Tech. Like that's one of the coolest environments I think in college football, especially when they're playing Enter Sandman at night and all that kind of stuff. Definitely gets that place rocking. So interesting list. I don't have too many quibbles with the top 10 other than the Rose Bowl for UCLA games being on there. Which was my big takeaway, my big kind of no-no that I didn't like about that list very much.
Nope.
All right, very good. So anyways, I brought that up and wanted to start things off with that list because, well, Tiger Stadium is where we're going to start our game breakdowns for this week. A huge one, Saturday night in Baton Rouge, Texas A&M, undefeated, heads to LSU. John, the Tigers, they are underdogs at home, at night. Wild. Now it's just a 2.5 point spread here that the Aggies are favored by. We got a total sitting at 47.5. This feels like the game for Brian Kelly and this offensive coaching staff that they need to throw the kitchen sink at Texas A&M here because LSU season kind of on the line at 5-2. They just lost to Vanderbilt. Obviously, they had that loss to Ole Miss early on. So if they lose again, kiss the SEC championship game goodbye if that's not already out of the picture here for them this year. But probably kiss the playoff goodbye too if they fall this weekend. On the other side, A&M just went through a bit of a rock fight with Arkansas, and these A&M road games have been wild compared to what they've done to teams at home. I think we have at least 80 points in both road games for A&M so far this season. LSU a little banged up on offense here. And then there's some interesting notes, right? Texas A&M's playing their 5th straight game going into this one. LSU, we know they're backed into the corner. And then history, if you want to look towards the trends, John, the home team has won 8 straight games in this matchup, and Texas A&M has not won in Baton Rouge since 1994. They are 0-6 in that stretch and 0-5-1 against the spread.
I think I just had a brainstorm idea for my next college football memory lane TikTok. Might have to throw it back to the 7 overtime game between these two in 2018. Truly one of the most ridiculous.
Was that long
games.
ago? Oh my God!
I know we're getting old, dude. It's bad, but really, like, just I think that was the game that sort of influenced the new overtime rules because that game was just so out of hand. It was the last game of the season that year. It was bananas. But that I will save that for our TikTok. Give us again a follow at CFB Tailgate. But I don't know what it is, man, because the numbers say that A&M should have this, right?
Right.
Maybe even more so than the spread would imply, even with home field being baked in. Because FEI has Texas A&M as number 12 in offense, number 12 in defense. It has LSU as 42 in offense and defensively just 14th. And I think that is probably a lower figure if Whit Weeks is unable to play once again. That could be a huge issue for this Tiger defense. So everything kind of points you to A&M. And I'm not even like saying this as like the Tigers season is on the line, a cornered animal type of thing. I just, as much as I like this A&M team, and I know we put them in our little circle of trust earlier this week, I think this is a dangerous spot for them. I think
it's
LSU
a tricky
at
spot.
night is going to be a factor here in a way that I said it wasn't against South Carolina. South Carolina didn't show up for that game, but I just think LSU wins this game. There's not a lot of numbers I can throw at you that are going to make you believe that. And personnel wise, again, LSU banged up, Nuss not looking like he's 100%. But do you fully, I know we said we trust him, but do you fully trust this A&M team to go on the road here? It seems like, again, their defense does not travel particularly well. So we get the chance of the Tigers scoring some serious points here, potentially, maybe pushing for 25, 30 points.
Ooh, that's asking a lot against a Power 4 team. That's asking a lot out of that offense. But as you were kind of hinting at and getting to, like, it's not so much that I don't trust Texas A&M, it's the spot that I'm interested in, right? 5th straight game for A&M without a bye. LSU's backed into that corner. I think we're going to see the best game plan offensively from Brian Kelly and that offensive coaching staff so far this season. Like, we have to at some point, right? And then you just start to, like, kind of go through here why this is, like, why I'm feeling the way I am. But, like, things should line up. This should line up for Texas A&M to win this game. They should be able to control both lines of scrimmage here, right? LSU's banged up. Garrett Nussmeier, as you mentioned, still clearly not right. LSU can't run the ball. They haven't had a 100-yard rusher all season. Offensive line, you got some guys missing. I believe they're going to be without one of their tackles again this weekend. Whit Weeks, as you hinted at, has not practiced yet this week, and we saw what Diego Pavia just did running the ball against them. Like, Marcel Reed should be able to do that, no problem. But then I just come back to this spot and how this is, and there's a couple of things that I'm looking at when I'm looking at how I'm going to try to bet this game. Right? Texas A&M just allowed over 500 yards and 42 points to Arkansas a week ago. The Aggies also rank 127th in red zone defense this season. They're allowing opponents to score over 95% of the time when they get to the red zone. Now, on the other hand, LSU has just been terrible finishing drives.
Yep.
Like, they cannot finish drives this season. They rank 121st in red zone offense, scoring on just 73% of their trips down inside the 20. So something's got to give there. When I'm looking at how I'm going to bet this game, I'm taking the over. I really like the over in this one. I lean towards Texas A&M just because I did just put them in my circle of trust 3 days ago. So, like, I'm not going to just immediately backtrack on that. And, like, I've kind of been ragging on this LSU team for a while here. But I think we're going to get some points Saturday night. So give me the over 47.5 for a bet in this game.
I like that. I know that a buddy of mine and a fan of the show is probably like screaming listening to this one, talking about the LSU red zone offense. He was calling that for even before the year started, that they seem to have some serious troubles down in the red area. Again, folks, this isn't my most scientific take that I've ever given out on the show. Not that I have many, but I will say that I'm gonna trust the Tigers to do it once. I think they're gonna get one big win this year. I don't think that A&M makes it through this entire gauntlet unscathed. Why not here? I think that this is a difficult spot for them at night in Baton Rouge. So by hook or by crook, give me LSU to cover this one.
What do we got from the computers in this game?
Let's see. So we got a little bit of, this is pretty much in agreement. Although on the spread, it might alter your thoughts. FEI has A&M scoring 20 or winning 26 to 23.5. So that's like right on that
Yep.
line there. And SP Plus has A&M only winning by 1 point, 26-25. I think that I'm riding with SP Plus here. I like LSU to cover that one. I don't know if I'm going to put them on the money line. I know the line is close enough to where that makes sense, but ultimately, just give me the points with the home dog Tigers.
All right, very good. And both those computers also and models are pointing towards the over as well, so I like
That's
that.
right.
But
Hell yeah.
one final little nugget for you guys for trend wise: since 2021, Texas A&M 4-12-1 against the spread on the road. That includes 1-1 this season. I think we get a lot of points because something about this defense just is not traveling very well. All right, so we'll stay in the SEC, but we're going to kind of roll things back to noon and the noon kickoff in this one. We wanted to start at night because we were just talking about Tiger Stadium there. But anyways, Ole Miss heads to Oklahoma. I believe this is their first trip ever to Norman. Another just really weird scheduling spot here and tough scheduling spot for the road team. Ole Miss, back-to-back road games. They just had to go to Georgia where they fell apart in the fourth quarter against the Dogs. Now they had to take on Brent Venables and his defense. You got one of the best defenses in the country in Oklahoma taking on one of the best offenses in the country in Ole Miss. So you got that classic best on best there. The thing with me, John, as I'm looking at this game, so we got Oklahoma's favored by up to 5.5 points now. Total sitting at 54.5. Like, I'm looking at this, and I still don't trust, John Mateer's health to be able to throw the ball on this Ole Miss defense. Now, you can run the ball on them quite a bit, and Oklahoma finally got the run game going a little bit last week against South Carolina. But I don't know. If this gets down to a close game late and Mateer's got to make plays with his arm, I don't trust him right now.
I don't know why you would. I think that he's still playing with the hardware store in his throwing hand. Like that's not nothing. So I think that Ole Miss is really, really dang good. I think that they're a top 10 team. And I think that OU and ultimately, like I go back to that Ole Miss defense, and obviously they looked bad last week. They literally did not get a stop. Does OU's offense pose that same type of threat whatsoever, even in Norman? I don't think so. I don't think that they're not going to get the explosives. I know the run game was a little bit better last week. The freshman seems to be coming on pretty nicely for the Sooners, but I don't know if like OU is going to be able to convert when they need to as easily as Georgia did. And I know this OU defense is stout, stingy. I do think that this Ole Miss offense is special, and I think that it was particularly impressive last week that they were not only able to get like the big shot play, like the 75-yard touchdown coming out of halftime, but for the most part, Chambliss and company, they were able to just sustain these long drives. And I know, again, that Ole Miss or OU's defense is better than Georgia's. I'm not arguing that, but I think that offense has the edge in this particular spot. I when it's good on good like this and bad on bad on the other side, I think that the best unit in this game is Ole Miss's offense. And I think that Chambliss showed last week that he's not scared of the crazy environment. He played extremely well in Athens. I like Ole Miss in this spot. I think they can win this one outright.
And to back up your point, too, Ole Miss is one of the best teams in the country at converting on third down. They rank 14th in the FBS. They're converting over 51% of those third downs. And Oklahoma, while if you look at their like overall stats for the season, they have been able to get off the field, but they were not able to do that against Texas. And what kind of defense do we see here from Oklahoma in this one? And then as I'm also looking at this line, like I keep coming back to this line. This is a weird line, isn't it? Like 5.5, Oklahoma favored at home here. Like Ole Miss was just a touchdown underdog at Georgia. Both teams here are 6-1. The loser is going to have a very tight rope to walk if they want to get to the playoff or anything like that, where the winner's got everything still in front of them. But like, I don't know if we were just doing like a pick'em card, like who's going to win? Like I'd take Ole Miss no problem. So like I'm really confused and skeptical of this line here this week.
Yeah, I think that the 5.5. Maybe that's more of an NFL thing. The big gamblers call it the Royal Mint or something like that. But yeah, again, I just think that we're going to get into a game where Ole Miss is dictating, where OU is going to have to play from behind a little bit, and I think that that plays into the Ole Miss defense, which can be opportunistic when it needs to be. And I think some of like the play designs that Ole Miss has for their offense is close to unstoppable. I mean, some of those like red zone plays that Lane Kiffin was running last week against Georgia, like obviously pulling out all the stops, were just like there's no way that any defense is stopping that. Even if you consider that Georgia's defense is kind of average at best. So I think OU might get caught with their trousers down on a couple of plays here, and Ole Miss gets these big chunk plays, these maybe a long touchdown or two. I don't know if OU has the firepower on offense to keep up over the course of 60 minutes. So ultimately, I like Ole Miss here.
Yeah, and then another thing too, like Ole Miss earlier on in the season, when we talked about some of those games with Oklahoma and these big home matchups that they were able to dictate, right, against Michigan and Auburn, like they were able to get to the quarterback, and like that pass rush was scary for those opposing quarterbacks there. The difference, I think, in this one is that Ole Miss is like one of the best teams in the country when it comes to avoiding sacks, and Chambliss has been so good at moving around, where I do think that's going to play into Ole Miss's favor here too, where if he can stay on his feet and not let that pass rush affect him, like you're saying, they're going to hit some of those chunk plays. And then if Oklahoma's got to play catch up here, I don't like that for the Sooners one bit. I'm leaning strongly. Actually, no, I'm taking Ole Miss plus 5.5. That's going to be on my card this week. I like that a lot. And then the other thing, too, we got Uncle Lane once again poking at the opposing coach a little bit, because there's a lot about sign stealing coming up a little bit. I think there was something with the Auburn-Oklahoma game. Or no, what was it? Auburn and Oklahoma a few weeks ago, like where Hugh Freeze, I guess, was just basically just like his signals were just out there, and Oklahoma was able to pick up on that. So Uncle Lane, film study of signals, I just tell you how it is, and I think they do a great job of that. If you study people really well and then you have enough confidence as a coach to go after those, that's what Venables does. It seems they've got a really good beat on plays that are coming when they're called, and they do a great job of taking those away. You look at the Auburn game, I told Hugh afterwards that he may want to switch his signals. It looks like they have your plays. The middle safety's running down to the field and stealing slants, which is very abnormal. And then Venables responded, he must have watched our guys be really prepared, because that's who they are, man. So just a little bit of poking there from Uncle Lane again. And for my betting card, and for us here as we pick Ole Miss, I hope it goes better than it did last week when he was like poking at Kirby's weight.
Yeah. He didn't call Venables Skeletor or anything like that. That's what I do. But it's just so classic. And then like adding on like the Lane Kiffin, Hugh Freeze stuff. Like just talk about kicking a guy when he's down. Like
yeah.
Look, I told old Hugh that his signals were just wide open for everyone to see. So that's so good. Hugh Freeze, like I can't even imagine like what the office phone looked like after. So like he definitely knocked everything off of his desk like once he was made aware of that quote. Like Lane definitely gets under his,
knocking everything, ripping the flat screen off the TV.
Yeah. So his assistant's just like, we got to code Hugh once again. This is like the fourth time this season we've had to just refurnish Hugh's office after a meltdown. Very good.
What do the computers say for this one?
The computers like Oklahoma. SP Plus has OU winning 28-23 as far as outright goes. And then FEI has this one a little bit closer. It has OU scoring 28, Ole Miss 25. But we're saying no to the computers on this one. I think we're both riding the Rebs.
Very good. Yeah, I know. I like the 5.5, and technically that's covering in both of those from the computer as well. So we'll take the 5.5 points there. All right, moving on. Missouri at Vanderbilt. Hat tip to any of you out there that had this game circled over the summer as a game with big time SEC standing implications, because that's what we got here. These two teams have just been a lot of fun to watch. Big time surprises. I believe they're both 6-1, and they each have only lost to Alabama. How about that? Vanderbilt is favored by 2.5 at home here. This game's in Nashville. Missouri, another SEC team like A&M, like Ole Miss, that has these tricky back-to-back road spots here. Total in this one, John, I think we got a 51.5. I'm looking at these two teams. We got game day in the house, by the way, for all of you out there. You got two of the best teams in the country when it comes to converting on third and fourth down, both around 55% here. Missouri, though, has been really good at getting off the field. And then as I'm trying to break this one down, I'm starting to talk myself more and more into Missouri, just because I think they're a more complete team, if that makes sense. Pavia's been awesome, but there's been some things from Missouri that we've seen this year where, one, their defense has been excellent at getting off the field, and they've also been excellent against mobile quarterbacks. You look at guys like Jalen Daniels. Who else? I think Sellers was on there too. And then Jackson Arnold last week. None of those guys ran for more than 25 yards on Missouri. Like, Pavia is going to have to try to be superhuman as he always is. But against this pass rush and this front, I'm not so sure he's going to be able to make the plays that he was able to a week ago against a banged-up LSU defense.
Yeah, Mizzou, when they lost to Alabama, why'd they lose? Because they were playing against Ty Simpson, who is delivering in the pocket and has, 4 stellar receivers to deliver the ball
and
to.
He didn't even throw to Ryan Williams.
I know. And, and it took until fourth and however long for Simpson to, kind of put the game on ice. But, yeah, I think that's a really great nugget in there about limiting those mobile quarterbacks. So when you take the rushing threat away from Pavia, I think that this Vanderbilt offense becomes pretty mediocre at best. I think we see maybe a big Eli Stowers game. He's really the one reliable option in that passing game. But they're gonna have to slow down that pass rush too. Damon Wilson is a monster. They've got a bunch of guys that are just getting in the backfield routinely, making tackles for loss, getting sacks, things like that. So that, coupled with the fact that I think Vanderbilt's defense is kind of the weakest unit when you stack this game up on both sides. So, I mean, SP Plus has Vandy's defense as the 60th best in the country. I know Vandy's at home. I know it's going to be a crazy environment, and Pavia can do heroics. So I'm not writing off this Vanderbilt team necessarily, and the computers actually do like Vanderbilt to win this game in a close one. But I think Mizzou, over the course of 60 minutes, I think that there's going to be one or two too many mistakes or big plays that Vandy allows to happen, and ultimately Mizzou comes out on top.
Yeah, so another thing here, too, to keep an eye on, Vanderbilt 101st in the FBS in red zone defense. They're allowing opponents to score on 90% of trips to the red zone. Missouri's red zone offense has been very good. They rank 27th in the country, scoring on over 91% of their red zone opportunities. So that could be a big-time key in this one, where if Missouri keeps converting and just moving down the field, that they're going to be able to punch it in, where some other teams in the past have been able to do that against Vanderbilt. I just have LSU on my mind because they just played them and they just, kind of puke on themselves in the red zone. But anyways, on the other side, though, John, do we finally see Ahmad Hardy get going again? I'm not sure we do, because this is a very good Vanderbilt run defense. They rank 12th in the country against the run.
They do. That is tricky, but I always will favor a team that has both a good running back and a mobile quarterback. I think that just tends to put defenses on their heels, because Pribula is always a threat to tuck it and run himself. So
I think we get a big game from him this weekend.
I do too. But I do think that Hardy gets back going after a couple of, relatively slow weeks by his standards relative to, how he was in September, where he was just leading the world in rushing yardage. I think he gets back on track this week. I think the metrics that you laid out there as far as Vanderbilt's defense are enough to, make me think that this Mizzou offense is going to be putting up points, and we're going to have Vandy playing from behind, get some mistakes. You get that pass rush really revved up for Mizzou, and ultimately the Tigers get this one done.
So, yeah, I'm strong leaning towards Missouri. They might find their way onto my card here by Saturday, not for the show purposes, but for the show, I love the over in this game. I like it over in Missouri games just in general because they just tend to be high flying, a lot of scoring, fireworks. Missouri's 5-1 to the over or something like that this season, so I'm going to take the over here. But what do the computers got? And the total's at 51.5, by the way.
Okay, so the FEI loves the over. It has Vandy winning this one 30.5 to 28.6. So Vandy
cushion.
Yep, it's a major cushion there, and then around 55 total points according to SP Plus, with Vandy winning 28 to 27.5.
All right, very good. I like that a lot. I'm kind of in lockstep with the computer there. That I don't know if that's good or bad. We'll find out when we get the results this weekend. So let's kind of do some other quick hitters around the country because there are so many just very intriguing games this week. As we talked about, a lot of maybe potential elimination type games in some spots, big time for conference seeding and jockeying in the standings and all that kind of stuff. I want to head to this BYU Iowa State game in Ames. Iowa State favored by 2.5 here. The Cyclones coming off back-to-back losses. BYU, as you know, is undefeated at this point. This is the final leg, though, of a 6-game-in-a-row stretch for BYU that included 4 road games in it. BYU's played 2 games the past 2 weeks that have just been all-out wars, including a holy war, if you will, against Utah. I don't know. This feels like this is an Iowa State team that's backed into a corner again. They have been a completely different team at home. The past two losses these past 2 weeks have both been on the road. Totally different team in Ames. I like Iowa State a lot this weekend to get the job done.
I do too. I think that they, you look at these records between these two, and you'd say, "Whoa, BYU must be favored," and that's not the case. I think it's Iowa State -2.5, and I agree with that. So I think Iowa State gets this one done. I'll have a bet on this game on our card for this week. It's going to be really close. I'm getting closer to respecting this BYU team, but I still think they lose a couple games here before the season's all said and done. And I think going to Ames is a spot where one of those losses will be picked up. So give me Rocco Becht and the Clones here.
Yeah, I think this is just a tricky spot for BYU. As much as I'm starting to respect them too, but we saw this last year with them. They started off 9-0, and then the wheels fall off. I do think whenever that does come, I think they get drubbed. When they lose, I don't think it's going to be like they lose on a last-second field goal. I think they lose handedly, and I think that could happen this Saturday.
There we go.
All right, let's stay in the Big 12. Baylor at Cincinnati. I mean, get ready for fireworks in this one. We got 2 of the best offenses in the country, 2 top 25 scoring offenses. Cincinnati ranked 15th. They're averaging over 37 points per game. Baylor ranked 24th, averaging over 36 points per game. I believe the line here in this one is down to it's at 3.5. Cincinnati favored by 3.5 at home. Total at 67.5, one of the highest on the board this weekend. And that's rightfully so because Baylor's defense, John, has just been awful. Baylor has not been covering this year either. They're 1-6 against the spread, 0-5 in their last 5 games. And then something happens when they go on the road, and these games just get absolutely bananas. They are 3-0 to the over in road games this season. Baylor has not had a road game with a total less than 72 points at the end. And that includes a game at Oklahoma State as well, where they allowed points to the Pokes in that game too. On the other side, you got the 5th straight game for Cincinnati. The Cincinnati's defense has been really good, but this is the first fully functioning offense that they've seen here in a few weeks. And if you go through who Cincinnati's played, when they do play a team with a semi-decent quarterback like a Jalen Daniels or a Rocco Becht, there's a lot of points in those games. And that's why I'm taking the over even at this high number. I think we're in the 80s here with this matchup. We're going to get a 45-42, something like that. So give me the over 67.5.
It's going to be nuts, but I think that things are really pointing in Cincinnati's favor. I'm surprised that the line has moved. I want to say earlier this week it was Cincy -5.5, so I might need to do some digging on the injury report, but I like how Cincinnati is not really beholden to any one guy on their offense. They have 5-6 playmakers that get it done. I think Sorsby is an underrated baller. I think he's been awesome for these last couple of years for Cincinnati, the quarterback. Baylor really bad against running quarterbacks. We saw that in the opener against Jackson Arnold even. Remember we thought that he might be good this year? Baylor made him look good, and that was in Waco. And I think the context here is also important, where Baylor just played almost a 6-hour game from start to finish because of the delays at TCU.
Right.
That's just a long day, whereas Cincinnati just a nice little business trip and beating up on the Pokes as one does. So a very easy, almost a de facto bye for Cincinnati last week. So this Baylor defense, I think, is going to be what undoes them in this particular spot. I got the Cats.
All right. Very good. I like that. I'm sure we'll be hearing a little bit more about that when we get to our betting card later on in the program. But anyways, let's head out to the AAC. USF at Memphis. John, the Bulls favored by 4.5 on the road. We got a total sitting at 61.5. 2 great offenses again. Kind of like an AAC elimination game maybe in this one, at least for Memphis' sake. I think if Memphis loses, they're not getting to that championship game the way Navy, Tulane, and then they'll have lost the head-to-head to USF as well. Great rushing attacks between these two teams. Both are top 16 in rushing yards per game, both averaging over 215 yards on the ground. Scoring offenses, these two teams can put up points. Memphis ranks 14th in the country at over 38 points per game. USF averaging over 41 points per game. And then, too, these two teams are also really good at forcing turnovers. Both have a strong turnover margin. Memphis ranks 14th at +6. South Florida ranks 10th at +7. How do you feel about this one? I'm a little conflicted because of where this game is, this game being in Memphis, and Memphis also being one of these teams that feels like they're kind of backed into a corner this week.
Right, and one of the more like confusing results of the whole year last week, right? Was that Memphis UAB?
Yeah.
So I think that
shout out Alex Mortensen.
Hey, yeah, man, gotta love Mort. But I think that Memphis bounces back this week. All the numbers, fairly like USF's chances in this spot to get it done. But I side with Memphis in this one, so I'm probably going to take them at home, getting points. I think they can win this one outright. SP Plus actually has Memphis winning this one by 5, whereas the line sits at USF -3.5. So I'm listening to the computers here.
All right, and to back up the computers, how about some historical trends? Memphis 7-1 versus USF since the two teams joined the AAC. Memphis has also won the last 4 meetings between these two schools. And then how about this? The last 4 times these two teams have met in Memphis, we've had an average of 79 points per game.
Oh,
so high total, 61.5, but history would tell you that they're going to clear that anyways.
So that'll be on your double box in the noon window. I think that one and the Ole Miss OU game are like you lock those in, figure out the rest.
Very good. I like that. And then 3:30, Bama at South Carolina. This game's interesting, John, because, this is another road test for Alabama here, right? They're 2-1 in road games this season. We know they lost the opener to Florida State, but then those 2 road wins at Missouri, at Georgia, have both come by just a field goal. The Tide favored by 11.5 here. This line has ticked down a little bit towards South Carolina. I'm just not sure that South Carolina has the firepower to keep this game close because Alabama might only have to get to like 21, 22, 23, low 20s to win this game. Lenora Sellers has not been good lately. It's been mostly because he's been on the ground. Sacked 11 times in the last 2 weeks. His numbers have not been good, but this Alabama pass rush, just 13 sacks in 7 games.
South Carolina is just floundering right now, and I just don't see this season turning around. I think a lot of the times what South Carolina needs is like that defensive line and Dylan Stewart to like get after the quarterback, but I don't think that happens against this mountainous Alabama offensive line. So Simpson with time to throw, I think that we see the trend get bucked. I know that, coming into the year, we were worried about Alabama in road spots, and they've both been close thus far in their wins, and then, of course, got blown out by Florida State. It sort of reminds me of, to draw an NFL comparison, like last week, the Chiefs were 12-point favorites or something against the Raiders, and it's like, the Chiefs have been awful as heavy favorites, like 13-24, and then they just shut out the Raiders at 131-0. I think something like that is within the realm of possibility here. I think that Bama just crushes this South Carolina team. So I don't think that this game looks remotely close to what we saw last year, where Sellers before Sellers was a household name, almost pulled the upset in Tuscaloosa. I think South Carolina is just down real bad, and I think Bama just kind of keeps that going.
Yeah, Cocktober not going according to plan, but there is always Cockvember, so keep an eye out and your head on a swivel there as that starts up in a couple of weeks. A couple more games that we want to get to here. Back out to the Big 12 we go. Houston at Arizona State. The Sun Devils favored by 7 points at home. John, I almost put ASU on my card this weekend at that 7.
Who, you?
Who, me? I know, not me. I am not a Sun Devil homer or anything like that on this show, but I'm a little skeptical, a little nervous because, Jordan Tyson's not playing. And Jordan Tyson is arguably the best wide receiver in college football. He has 8 touchdown catches this season. Sam Leavitt only has 9 touchdown passes. So where's this offense going to come from? Where's this production going to come from? If ASU is to continue their march to try to get back to the Big 12 championship game and play a very pesky Cougar team this weekend.
Yeah, Jordan Tyson, he accounts for 36% of the targets for Arizona State.
Makes
How do you
sense.
redistribute that? Like, you really can't. So you're going to have to run the ball a little bit more. Houston has been sneakily solid this year. So I think that Houston is very much alive in this one. I think that it's a big loss to not have Tyson there. So keep an eye on this one. I'm not saying that Arizona State's on like upset watch, or what's like the weather term, like the difference between a watch and a warning, that it's like whatever the less severe one is what Arizona State's on this week.
Yeah, I'd agree. And this one's also like the last kick, I think, of the night at like 10:15 Eastern or something like
baby.
that. So could get a little wonky in that very late after dark window there. But yeah, I'm nervous. I'm nervous for my Sun Devils. I'm nervous for Kenny D. I'm happy this game's at home, but yeah, I'm not feeling great right now. I'm not laying the 7 points at this moment with the Sun Devils.
And I will say, Houston, I think his name is like Amari Thomas. Amari Thomas. The last few games has been like totally dominant. Like kind of emerging as this big time playmaker. So I think coming into the year, like you looked at what Connor Wagman's like weaponry was going to be, and it's like you got a MAC transfer tight end as your top guy, Tanner Koziel. No, Amari Thomas has really come on extremely strong over the last 4 games. 11.8 yards per target, 19 catches on 34 targets, 400 yards, and 3 touchdowns in his last 4 games. So that's going to be an issue, I think, for that Arizona State defense. Keep an eye on him.
Yeah, definitely going to be worth staying up and watching that game, I think, for sure, Saturday night. Let's go all the way back to the noon window. Got to talk about this one because we got to talk about one of the hottest teams in the country, the UCLA Bruins.
That's right.
Won 3 in a row. They head to Indiana to take on the Hoosiers. John, 24.5 is the spread here. The Hoosiers laying at home. Are you tempted to take the points with UCLA with the way they've been playing the last couple of weeks?
I really am. And that's not to say that Indiana doesn't win this game by at least 2 scores, but that's a lot of points for how UCLA has performed over its last 3 games. They're rocking. They're rolling right now. No, I think that UCLA is very much going to this is one of those games where we get to halftime. Everyone's like, what's going on in Bloomington? Indiana ultimately pulls away. Like, Indiana will be fine. But I will say that 24.5 is a little bit disrespectful relative to how BYU's been playing of late.
Yeah, UCLA, Neuheisel's got it going on there. Whatever he's got cooking, and I guess just getting Deshaun Foster out of there has been such a big difference. I mean, Nico's looked much better. If he can extend some plays, yeah, maybe UCLA flirts around and hangs around there in that early window. Something that we have seen them do, by the way. I believe they were like a 10-point underdog at Michigan State with a noon Eastern kick, and they won that game handedly.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm not calling for the upset, but yeah, maybe this game only ends up being like 31-10 or something like that, and then you cover if you're UCLA. But anyways, so. All right, moving on. Let's get to our betting card here for Week 9. Great week last week, guys. If you were tailing, hopefully you were. We went 14-3 against the spread, and some totals in there as well. But anyways, fantastic week. But we got to be able to back that up. Got to keep building on that. Unfortunately, we suffered a loss on Wednesday Night Football. A little CUSA action. New Mexico State, we had them plus 1.5. John, they came all the way back, forced overtime, and lost in OT. So unfortunately, we are 0-1 right now. But anyways, best bets, Week 9. Here we go. What's on your card this week?
Best bets for Week 9. Give me Cincinnati minus 3.5 against Baylor. Baylor, that defense, abysmal. Just played a marathon of a game in Fort Worth last week. Cincinnati going to be feeling good after just taking care of business against OK State. Sorsby's the man. The line has moved in Baylor's direction. I think it's a buying opportunity. Give me Cincy minus 3.5. Give me Memphis plus 4.5 at USF. Give me Iowa State money line. I don't want to mess with the spread necessarily against BYU, but I do think that Iowa State gets it done. Give me Pitt. I'm going to keep riding Pitt until they tell me to not ride Pitt. Minus 5.5 against NC State. And then let's see. Give me the Arkansas money line against Auburn. I think we've seen this one cross the 0. I think Auburn was a slight favorite earlier in the week. I love this Arkansas offense, and I think that Auburn is in a bit of a tailspin. right now, and I think that continues. What says tailspin more than losing to Arkansas? I think we get it. And then give me LSU plus 2.5. I've teased it earlier on in the show. I don't have great numbers working in my favor against Texas A&M necessarily, other than A&M on the road has not been particularly good, especially on defense and against the number on the road. So last gasp here for Brian Kelly and company. Give me LSU plus 2.5.
All right, very good. On my card this week, I already gave out Oregon, Wisconsin over 45.5. Let's go Nebraska, minus 7.5, taking on Northwestern at home. I think this is a good bounce back spot for the Huskers on a little bit of extra rest too. Ole Miss plus 5.5 is on my card. I like them outright, but I'm going to take the 5.5 points here. Let's go over in the Mizzou and Vandy game, over 51.5. We'll go Iowa State. I'll lay the points at 2.5 against BYU. West Virginia, plus 15.5 at home against TCU. Maybe Rich Rod gets something cooking there and they can keep this game within 2 touchdowns. Hopefully they do. We'll go Baylor and Cincinnati over 66.5. I think we got track meet, fireworks, whatever adjective you want to use for this game. I think we get it with those two offenses. And then finally, Texas A&M and LSU over 47.5. I think we see the best offensive output from LSU against a SEC team this season on Saturday night. Maybe A&M comes away with the win. Maybe they don't, but give me the over in that game.
Yeah, I think that it's like a really gettable number, 47.5. Given the way that A&M's defense does not seem to travel, I think we see somehow LSU tap into like what they need offensively. I thought Trey'Dez Green, their tight end last week, was super impressive. I thought he was super impressive in the season opener against Clemson as well. Watch him as an X factor.
So I got to ask you, like, let's say A&M goes in there and they win this game 31-14.
Mm-hmm.
Do we get the announcement that Kelly's done?
I don't think he gets fired from that.
They'd still be 5-3. So
that's still pretty inexcusable. Like
with the expectations that they had, and then let's say if they have another night where they just can't move the ball and they can't convert, and like it's like I feel like it's coming. Like I feel like it's
primed
coming
for a fresh start next year too. Anyway, like Nuss will be gone. Like I think it would kind of make sense for LSU to push the reset button. I know that you've got other big job openings that all of a sudden you're going to be having to fight for. But if Brian Kelly gives you a 7-5 season, the way that they were hyped up coming in, you can't really. That's not up to the standard. You can't do that.
Yeah, I feel like it's coming. Like at some point, it might not be this week, but it was just an odd fit from the beginning. And obviously, I got a little bit of an axe to grind still with Brian Kelly with how he left Notre Dame and then like changed his accent and all that kind of stuff when he got down to the Bayou. But I don't know. He just does not feel like he's just not what you picture an LSU football coach to be.
No.
So I don't know. I think we could get that news sooner rather than later there, and that could be the biggest opening of them all going into this carousel. But anyways, anything else you want to get to this week? I think we got to pretty much. Do you have an FCS thought, by the way? We did mention this game. So we got South Dakota State taking on North Dakota State, two of the best teams in the FCS this weekend. South Dakota getting 4.5 at home. I know my model that I looked at is like lit up for South Dakota State this weekend, but I don't know. North Dakota State's just been a tremendous program for so long that I don't really like picking against them in a big spot.
Yes, the Bison, tremendous, terrific program, the gold
against
standard.
The Jackrabbits.
Give me the Jackrabbits.
Very good. Love it. Very good. All right, guys. That's going to do it for us this week. We will be back on Monday to break it all down, Week 9 recap. Make sure you're subscribed. Tell a friend. Grab your friend's phone. Grab your mom's phone. Grab your aunt's phone. Hit that subscribe button for us, and it will do so much and help us out as we try to continue to grow this show. It doesn't cost you anything. It's free. Anyways, for John, I'm Dan. This is College Football Tailgate. We will talk to you guys after Week 9.